The reading this morning is from Judges chapter 5, and we're reading from verse 1 to verse 14. Judges chapter 5, from verse 1 to 14. While you turn to those readings that perhaps won't be familiar to some, so I thought I'd just do the reading and we'll pick it up as we go along. Then Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang on that day, saying, when leaders lead in Israel, when the people willingly offer themselves, bless the Lord. Hear, O kings, give ear, O princes. I, even I, will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the field of Edom, the earth trembled and the heavens poured. The clouds also poured water and the mountains gushed before the Lord, the Sinai before the Lord God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were deserted and the travelers walked along the byways. Village life ceased. It ceased in Israel. Until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. Then there was war in the gates. Not a shield or spear was seen among the 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with the rulers of Israel who offered themselves willingly with the people. Bless the Lord. Speak you who ride on white donkeys, who sit in judges' attire, who walk along the road, far from the noise of the archers among the watering places. There they shall recount the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous acts for his villages in Israel. And the people of the Lord shall go down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, and sing a song. Arise, Barak, and lead your captives away, O son of Abinoam. And the survivors came down, the people against the nobles. The Lord came down for me against the mighty. From Ephraim was those whose roots were in Amalek. After you, Benjamin, with your peoples. From Machir came rulers, rulers came down. From Zebulun, those who bear the recruiter's staff. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah. As Issachar, so was Barak, sent into the valley under his command. There we are. We'll read verse 15. But, continuing the subject that we've looked at over the last couple of weeks, we'll probably do 1 or 2 weeks more. Friends, really. I suppose a wonderful verse that fits is from Psalm 133. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And this week we'll look at this account in the book of Judges. I've titled it a phrase from 2 Corinthians, a lovely little phrase. We are workers together with him. Very often, I think Barak was probably looking for a hero. And he was too afraid to step out by himself. But we must remember we are workers together with him. And it makes all the difference when he's involved with us. But the children of Israel were in a dreadful state. Chapter 4, verse 3 reads like this. The children of Israel were harshly oppressed by Jabin for 20 years. He'd harshly oppressed them. And they were in a dreadful state. Do you want a glass of water? Okay. Can you pass that? Go on, Nicholas. All right. It was so bad that the highways were bereft of travellers. The highways the main roads then were empty. Travellers used the back roads. That's what it says in chapter 5, verse 3. They used the back roads. It wasn't safe to put yourself in a public place. Village life ceased. What very often happens when the Church of God, whether in Old Testament or New Testament, when they fear, when they are oppressed, they shrink. And so they went from village life to the big cities for security. But what they were called to do was to dwell in the land. That was the calling of Israel, to dwell in, to be a light wherever they were. On the borders, out in the country, to be a tremendous light. But village life ceased. We find it today, don't we? Many of the smaller chapels closing. People finding refuge in bigger churches. Understand the reason for that. You sit in a chapel where there's just 6 people. We understand that. And much will be down to 1 or 2 people, sometimes just one person, to open up, set up, put away, and shut up. You can find, but very often we find them going to the bigger churches, and they went to the bigger cities, and there they found refuge. Verse 8 tells us that there wasn't a shield nor spear amongst 40,000 soldiers in Israel. Not a shield, not a spear. They felt that they had... It was so bad that there were archers at the watering holes. The simple task of drawing water. You've seen it, haven't we, on the BBC News sometimes. You see those people running out into the street to get to a well somewhere. In Syria, in Libya. And there's snipers waiting up in the buildings, watching them. Putting pressure on. Even the simplest of tasks. Walking from A to B. You couldn't go down the main road. I remember coming out from the Gwern and then going up to my mates in St. Ennis Square. Gone past midnight, and I was coming down on New Year's Eve, walking by myself. And I was coming down towards Abbott Square. And I could hear him coming out of the pant and coming down from the Amber Hotel. And I thought, I don't want to go down there. And so I cut through, just by the YM, and then up the road down to Sunnybank, so I could miss all of Abertrillo. They walked the side roads, the back roads, because there was so much pressure. It was a terrible state to be in. Anything worth pinching was taken. Your daughters were not safe on the streets because of kidnapping. That's what this chapter tells us in chapter 4. It was a threatening, oppressive regime that they were dwelling under. And at such a time, this is what the writer tells us. Verse 5, I, Deborah, arose. What did she arise from? Verse 12 tells us, awake, Deborah, awake. She'd been sleeping. And now she's arising. She's woken up. It says, isn't it? Awake, you that sleep, and Christ shall give you light. But here, she's sleeping. But thank God, she awoke. She arose. And she arose, a prophetess, we're told, wife of Lapidoth. The rabbis tell us, according to all the different concordances, the rabbis tell us that that wasn't her husband's name. She was a woman of the lamps. She kept the lamps of the tabernacle. Whether that's true or not, but it says simply there, wife of Lapidoth in our translation. We find that she was a prophetess. We find that she was a sweet psalmist, for she pens a song. We find that she was a counselor, for people would go to her while she was sat under the tree in a village. People would go to her for counsel, advice. We find that when there was measures of insecurity, that people like Barak, who was a prince, a lord, it would seem, of Issachar, even he would go down to find comfort and strength in the words of Deborah. And then it says this, she arose a mother in Israel. All it takes is for one to catch the light. That's all it takes. I've been handy, a 12-year-old girl, invited to swimming and fish and chips. The light caught and it spread. And we find on a number of occasions through Scripture, just one catches the light. Hezekiah had a father, Ammon, that was so crude that it shut up all of the temple. But one moment with God was able to bring not only Hezekiah through, but the sparks spread throughout all the tribes of Israel. She arose a mother in Israel. Such stirring spread. Verse 12 says this, arise, Barak, for he'd been sleeping as well. That's the way we deal with problems sometimes, isn't it? It is one of the ways we deal with problems. Get your head on the pillow or under the blanket and just shut off. It's the way we deal with it sometimes. A weariness comes that even the simplest of tasks causes bother. Just getting a can of water from the well causes such a pressure. Just going to see your mum down the road, you've got to take a back road to do it. Just to communicate with friends, you have to go to the big city if you're living out in the country. Because everyone is being sucked in more and more and more. The oppression is increasing. But thank God, Deborah, arose, a prophetess, a mother in Israel, a counselor, a comforter, and the fire spread. Barak arose too. I woke up from the sleep that had been resting upon me. Verse 2 tells us this. When leaders lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, bless the Lord. When leaders lead. In your margin, you'll have this. When locks are loosed. I've never thought of myself as a lock. But you can be, you know. You can be locked up tight as a leader. And you can influence the congregation. A leader needs to be free. One translation puts it, or one translator, a man by the name of Robinson, puts it like this. When the free are freed. When the free are freed. And the people offer themselves willingly. That word willingly there. It is as a voluntary offering. A voluntary offering. There were some offerings that were not voluntary. But there were other offerings that were voluntary. The voluntary burnt offering in Leviticus chapter 1, where it was down to you. There was always a morning and evening burnt offering. But if you wanted to show your willingness, you could offer your own free will offering, burnt offering, before the Lord. And there were other offerings as well that you could offer freely. When leaders lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, bless the Lord. Verse 9 says this, my heart, this Deborah speaking now, my heart is with the rulers of Israel, who offered themselves willingly with the people. Bless the Lord. So it spread. The leaders were affected by Deborah and by Barak. And it spread. And it spread amongst the people as well. They too caught the fire. What it says in verse 6, Deborah speaking to Barak turns and says this, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. Two of the most insignificant names of the tribes of Israel. You hardly ever heard them being mentioned. Hardly ever heard them. Take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. They're right up there in Galilee. But watch what happens. He goes to gather these men, and this is what it says, verse 13. Ephraim, the biggest of the tribes really, in the center of Israel, Ephraim, and was led by Benjamin. He's come down from the south, or come up from the south. So Ephraim is there, his tribes are there, or his peoples are there, led by little Benjamin. It's a wonderful. See how it's spreading. From Machir, remember the tribe of Manasseh was split in two. This is the half of the tribe that was in the mainland, not over the other side of Jordan. They were in the mainland, Machir. They came. It says from Machir came rulers. From Zebulun, they were the recruiter's staff. You know, you hear about this sometimes, don't you? You hear of people having that spirit upon them that can recruit people. They just come into people's company. And suddenly it's not a thing of, I could never do that. You start thinking, well, I could do that. Brother Lake, John Lake, in the early part of the 20th century, he had this wonderful gift, but his greatest gift was this. He had a wonderful gift of healing, which we would wonderfully have today. If we could have a gift, I'm sure that would be a gift that would be high in priority. But his greatest gift was this. He could pass it on to others. He rarely ever kept it to himself. And he saw the gift in some of those around him being even greater than the gift that was in him. He had that wonderful gift. The children of Zebulun came with the recruiter staff. It's amazing what you can do, you know. When you've got this spark within your soul, how a heart can be lifted up in a moment. You just put your hand on their shoulder and show them that you're with them. And they too can taste of this life. And the recruiter staff. Are there any recruiters here? Is there anybody good at recruiting? I think the most neglected job, I can always remember it, the careers officer. In work, in school rather, the careers officer in work. What do you want to do? I want to do this. The careers officer in school. Ours was Gareth Howells. Mr. Howells was his dad, obviously, and he was Bowie, and Gareth Howells was Yakka Bowie. It's typical Welsh, that is it, Yakka Bowie. He would, what do you like to do, Martin? I don't know. How about a cobble? No, not particularly fast. But when you think of it, it was so narrow, and for the girls it would have even been narrower, a career pathway. You know, the mindset would have been, well, no, this is where you're from, so you really need to stay in this line, don't you? Didn't you many boys going through the different type of occupations? But what is the spirit in a Christian realm? A recruiter. That makes you feel you can do what they do. That lifts you up from the inward thought that driving in all the time. I could never be that. I could never do that. I could never go there. All those different things. And so we find with this Zebulun, they had the recruiter staff. Verse 15, the princes of Issachar were with Deborah. They were one with her. They were one with her. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah. As Issachar, so was Barak. It was. I got this little verse in. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Why are you here then? Well, we very often have our different reasons for being with who we're with, don't we? You know, if you're walking down from St. Kenneth to Abertridge, I would have had my mate Robert Petty with me. You know, he would have stood by me thick and thin. Almost took a boy's head off because he ripped the button off my jacket one time. I'd love to have had him with me, but I was by myself. We have different reasons. But what is it when people want to be together because they want the same things, because they believe the same things, because they have the same things, because the Saviour is amongst us? What a difference it makes, you know. Verse 18 says this, Zebulun is a people who jeopardize their lives to the point of death. Naphtali also was in the heights of the battle, in the heat of the battle. You know, I've never been the world's bravest. Never been the world's bravest. But Naphtali, that most, I think his name means doe, as in deer. I think that's what his name means, if I remember right. Doe. Such a gentle character. The name sounds gentle, doesn't it? Naphtali. You know, against Benjamin or Dan. You know, it's just, well, you know, I wouldn't want to fight a Benjamin, I wouldn't want to fight a Dan. You never knew what they would get up to, but a Naphtali. But he's there in the height of the battle. We've read over the last 2 weeks, haven't we, on a Tuesday night, of those that have jeopardized their lives to the point of death. The first one we read of 2 weeks ago in Philippians on a Tuesday night was the Lord Jesus himself, who became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross. You see, he gave up his life. And last week especially, we looked at Paul, we looked at Timothy, and we looked at that odd-named character, Epaphroditus. Of Paul, he says this, I'll give my life up for you. And he's speaking there to the church at Philippi. I'll give my all for you. And I know if life comes to an end, you will be glad for me. I give my life for you. And so with others, with Timothy, I've no man like-minded. He's got the same mind as me. He'll die for you. And here we have Epaphroditus as well. A man who was brought to the point of death for doing what the Philippian church had asked him to do. At the point of death, Zebulun were a people that jeopardized their lives to the point of death. And Naphtali, he was in the heat of the battle. He was right there where it was hottest. That's where he was, fighting. But I find it charming. Perhaps that's the wrong word. But isn't it lovely that in one sense, Deborah was saying, go and tell Zebulun and Naphtali, get 10,000 men from there. But coming up from the south, without request, led Benjamin. If you read Psalm 68, you'll find some of the different things that goes on in this chapter in Psalm 68. It opens like this. Let God arise. Let his enemies be scattered. You see, when God arises, Deborah arose. When Deborah arose, Barak arose. When Barak arose, Israel arose. For Benjamin, and it says in Psalm 68, he talks about Judah rising. Oh, such a spirit of unity amongst the people of God. Let God arise. We read here, don't we? Verse 13. It's a lovely verse. The survivors. The survivors. The fugitives. The villagers. I think the Living Bible or the Good News Bible says the peasants. The peasants came down against the mighty. The Lord came down for me against the mighty. You see, we are workers together with him. God arises, Deborah arises. God comes down, the peasants come down. The fugitives come down, the survivors who stand against the mighty in this instance, having 900 chariots of iron. Is it what it says in Psalm 68? The Lord has his chariots, 20,000, even thousands of thousands, as 1,000,000 strong. You can have 900 chariots if you want, matey. I'll prefer 1,020,000. That'll do me. Not only did the Lord arise, the Lord came down. He went forth, he marched, and he brought the victory. We are workers together with him. In an age of oppression, in an age where the church is almost feeling that shrinking feeling, where you go up to the heads of the valleys and we can see, even tonight if we were to go up there, churches, if they have 15, are chuffed to bits. And that's those are not words to denigrate them. It's not words to denigrate them at all. I'm just saying how things have changed. I'm reading a book for probably the 4th time in 2 years. I suppose I should read another book. But it's about a whole realm of different preachers. John Elias could hold a congregation in the open air of 10,000 in his hands, without aid of microphone or hailer. With such drama would be able to preach the gospel, and they would be holding on to their seats. Well, they didn't have seats to sit on. They were standing up. He could hold them for 10,000. Oh, for a day when God would arise and we would arise with him, that we might go in together here. The people shall be willing in the day of your power. Are we willing today? Are we willing, that voluntary offering, to give up to God in the day of his power? We are marching to Zion. Beautiful, beautiful Zion. The wonderful, beautiful city of God. May we march with the Lord and sense that he is leading and showing the way forward to bring us into victory. I don't know what victory means. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what victory means in the sense of what this church is looking for. But I know this. It'll make all the difference if he is amongst us. And we are with him. May God grant it to us. If you're sleeping, awake. Arise and go forth. The God that was with Deborah the bee, so busy, is the same God that was with Barak. Deborah had this capacity. Barak, the work of God, we need you to go and confront these enemies up in the north. Make your way up. This is Barak's words to her. I'll go if you come with me. I'll go if you'll come with me. He lost a little bit of, he didn't lose the blessing of God, he didn't lose that. But he lost a little bit of glory that would have been his. For the story changed. It began with a woman, Deborah, and it ends with a woman, Jael. We won't go into what Jael did, not on a Sunday morning anyway. But she brought the victory. It was to be Barak's blessing, but it was given to Jael. Well, I trust that you will join together as workers with him. Do you see him in your daily life? Do you see him there? For he wants to be there, day by day. Be it on the battlefield or at the kitchen sink. He wants to be there. Such a God we have.